Imagine a stark pitch black screen. Across the center, a single number appears in cold, clinical white text, $2 billion. This isn't just a balance sheet figure, it is the price of a total geopolitical stalemate. In the global technology arena, fortunes are made and lost in years, but China just managed to dismantle Meta's most significant AI strategy in history in less than 24 hours. Mark Zuckerberg believed he had finally grasped the holy grail of artificial intelligence. He was prepared to bet the future of his company on a single acquisition. Beijing, however, had a different vision for the future of world power, and their intervention was a surgical strike that left the tech world in a state of absolute shock. The name at the center of this storm is Manus AI. For the uninitiated, Manus appeared like a ghost in the machine, a mysterious startup that promised to bridge the gap between human intent and digital execution. While the public still marveled at chatbots and their ability to write poetry or summarize emails, the founders of Manus AI were perfecting something far more consequential. They were moving beyond the era of chatting and into the era of doing. They weren't building a virtual assistant. They were building the first truly autonomous digital workforce. Zuckerberg recognized the existential threat of staying static. He was willing to pour billions into the deal to integrate the Manus architecture directly into the Instagram and WhatsApp ecosystems. For Meta, this wasn't about a new filter. It was about survival. Meta has been locked in a fierce struggle to keep up with the rapid advancements of OpenAI and Google. Despite their massive investment in open source models, there was a growing realization in Menlo Park that they were missing a fundamental piece of the puzzle. They were trapped in a communication layer, while their rivals were moving toward an action layer. This isn't just a failed business negotiation, it is the first shot in a new war. This conflict is being fought over the very logic of our digital future. Before we continue this deep dive into the collapse of the deal, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Your perspective helps us track how these global shifts are felt across the world, and we are going deep into how this power balance is shifting through lines of code. To understand why Beijing was so desperate to block this sale, you have to understand the tech at stake. This is agentic AI. This is a massive leap forward from the large language models we use today. A standard chatbot can explain how to book a complex multi-city flight, but an agentic system like Manus can actually log into the sites, compare the prices, navigate the seat maps, and complete the purchase for you. It can code entire functional applications from scratch while debugging them in real time, manage complex financial spreadsheets, and execute multi-step business strategies without a human holding its hand. Meta found itself in what experts are calling an agentic void. While their competitors were training systems to navigate the web and use software tools independently, Meta's ecosystem remained a closed loop of human-to-human interaction. Manus AI represented a shortcut, a way to bypass years of research and development and instantly gain the lead in the race for autonomous action. The Holy Grail narrative is simple. The first company to master agents doesn't just dominate the software market, they effectively control the modern economy's operating system. But as Meta's legal teams were finalizing the last clauses of the acquisition, a silent alarm went off in the heart of Beijing's regulatory machine. The Chinese government realized that the brain of their promising startup was about to be exported to their greatest rival. What followed changed the global tech landscape forever, drawing a line in the silicon that can never be uncrossed. The intervention was not a slow, bureaucratic erosion, but a sudden, clinical severance that sent shockwaves through the entire tech industry. Within hours of the deal's finalization becoming public, the Cyberspace Administration of China issued a strict directive that effectively frozen the assets of Manus AI. To the outside world, the official justification was phrased in the language of data sovereignty. Beijing argued that the transfer of such sophisticated technology to a foreign power posed an unacceptable risk to the integrity of the nation's digital borders. They claimed the massive datasets used to train the Manus models contained sensitive information regarding Chinese infrastructure that could be weaponized by a Western giant like Meta. However, those close to the negotiations knew this was merely a smokescreen for a much more profound geopolitical calculation. The real reason behind the block was the escalating AI Cold War and the desperate race for global supremacy. Manus AI wasn't just clever software. Its core architecture was deeply integrated with specialized Chinese hardware clusters and proprietary algorithms developed under state-sponsored research initiatives. Meta's plan was to westernize this tech, to strip away the domestic dependencies and transplant the brain into their own global server farms. For Beijing, this represented the ultimate high-tech brain drain. They weren't just losing a startup, they were losing a primary strategic asset in the race for cognitive dominance. They saw Manus as a digital offspring of their own industrial strategy and had no intention of letting Mark Zuckerberg turn it into a tool for American economic hegemony. China isn't merely protecting a company, they are gatekeeping a fundamental layer of what they perceive as future global intelligence. In the Great Hall of the People, the perspective on artificial intelligence has shifted dramatically. While the West often views AI through the lens of productivity and profit, the Chinese Communist Party has drawn a hard red line. Any AI capable of autonomous action, true agentic AI that can make decisions without human oversight, is now classified as a strategic weapon of the highest order. To Beijing, allowing Meta to acquire Manus was equivalent to letting a rival nation walk away with a fleet of next-generation autonomous drones or cyber tools. In the middle of this high-stakes chess match stood the founders of Manus AI, caught in a psychological vice that tightened daily. On one side was the allure of a $2 billion payday, on the other was the visceral reality of operating within the Chinese system. They were trapped in secret negotiations where Meta's representatives offered increasingly desperate concessions, including localized oversight and data siloing. But the grip from Beijing only tightened. The founders realized that in this new era of tech nationalism, being too good was a double-edged sword. Their brilliance had made them billionaires on paper, but it also transformed them into subjects of state interest who could not be allowed to leave. The threat of being shut down or absorbed by state-run laboratories loomed over every conversation and meeting. This conflict forced a total redefinition of success. It is no longer measured by the size of an exit, but by how well a company can navigate the minefields of competing national sovereignties and laws. While Meta mourns the deal and watches its stock fluctuate under the weight of the agentic void, the rest of the world is missing the bigger picture. This wasn't an isolated incident or a minor setback. It was the birth of the Silicon Curtain. The digital world is no longer a borderless frontier of shared innovation or global cooperation. It is being carved into exclusive territories where the most powerful tools are guarded like nuclear secrets. The map of the world is being redrawn, not in ink, but in data centers and GPU clusters. We are witnessing the end of open innovation as we know it, replaced by a harsh reality where code is the ultimate proxy for national survival and influence. The era of global tech unity has died, and in its place, a new, colder boundary rises. The death of the Meta-Manus deal marks the official commencement of what historians will eventually call the AI Cold War. This is no longer a temporary trade dispute or a minor regulatory hurdle. It is the permanent bifurcation of the global technological landscape. For decades, the tech world operated under the dream of a unified, borderless internet where innovation flowed freely from Palo Alto to Shenzhen. That dream died the moment Beijing's directive hit the wires. The vision of a single global web is being replaced by two distinct incompatible hemispheres. One sphere is anchored in the Western values of Silicon Valley, while the other is governed by the state-centric mandates of Beijing. This rising Silicon Curtain means that the era of globalized software is over, and the consequences will ripple through every corner of our digital lives, altering how we interact with machines and each other. In this fractured landscape, AI agents will evolve into fundamentally different digital species. Within the American ecosystem, titans like Meta, Google, and OpenAI will develop agents trained on Western data, emphasizing individual productivity and market outcomes. These agents will operate within a framework of democratic capitalism, prioritizing the consumer and the shareholder. Conversely, the Chinese ecosystem, fueled by the forced retention of startups like Manus AI, will produce agents hard-coded with the Communist Party's specific priorities. These systems will be instruments of social stability, surveillance, and state-directed economic planning. The core logic engines of these two worlds will eventually become mutually unintelligible. An AI trained in Beijing will view the world through a lens of collective security and state sovereignty, while its San Francisco counterpart will prioritize individual agency and profit. This divergence isn't just about code, it is a fundamental split in the very philosophy of machine intelligence. For the average user, the consequences of this split will be tangible and frustrating. Imagine a future where your American AI assistant cannot communicate with a Chinese logistics agent because their protocols are legally forbidden from interacting. The dream of a seamless, automated global economy is dissolving before it can fully bloom. If you are an entrepreneur trying to bridge these markets, you will be forced to manage two separate digital brains that cannot share data or synchronize tasks. The interoperability we take for granted will vanish when it comes to the agentic layer. We are entering an age of digital translation, where the greatest barrier to global trade isn't a physical border or a tariff, but a fundamental incompatibility of artificial intelligence. Your digital tools will reflect the flag you live under, and the digital walls will only grow taller as these agents become more autonomous. Mark Zuckerberg's lost $2 billion deal is just a symptom of this much larger shift. The real casualty is the spirit of open innovation that once defined the internet age. We are witnessing a world where significant breakthroughs are treated as classified state secrets, rather than opportunities for global human advancement. AI is no longer just a product we use. It has become the ultimate proxy for national sovereignty and influence. In this new world order, if a nation controls the autonomous agents, it controls the flow of capital, information, and power. The map of the world is being redrawn right now in the humming aisles of data centers and the intricate architecture of GPU clusters. AI has transitioned from a tool of convenience to a pillar of national survival. The war for the future has moved from the simple manufacture of chips to the total control of agents. Do not get left behind as the curtain falls and the world divides. The shifting power balance of code is the defining story of our generation. Next time, we are looking at the secret hardware black market keeping Russia's AI dreams alive despite every sanction in the book. You won't want to miss that investigation into the digital underground. We will reveal the ghosts in the machine that keep the shadow economy running against all odds.